Hey girls, welcome back to Sabey Baby Talks. I look a mess. I'm sorry. This is not great. I think I'm getting a cold or like I'm coming down with something because I am profusely sweating and cold at the same time. I've not brushed my hair, but I just thought, you know what? Do you know what? I don't really care. So, this is going to be the situation, which ties in wonderfully because today I want to talk about health, women's health, because I get asked all the time on my TikTok about my endometriosis and stuff like that. So I thought today would be a good day to talk about that. Obviously, endometriosis has nothing to do with me having a cold right now, but I'm just feeling doctory, feeling doctory. So I'm going to try not to keep snorting, sniffing, whatever, like that. And oh dear. Anyway, I hope you've all had a lovely week, and I hope you're all okay. Like I said before, I get asked about this stuff all the time, and it might be a bit of a long one because I could talk about this stuff for literally hours. I've been through it so much with my health, but I figured maybe I'll share my experience, my symptoms, what have been told because I've really been through it with the whole doctor thing. It's been a nightmare. So yeah, I'm going to stop waffling now and get on with it. So make yourself comfy. In fact, I'm going to make myself comfy because this could be a long one, and I feel like I'm knocking on death's door. So that's nice. Grab a drink. So taking it back to when I was a kid. I bet you're bored of me saying that. I'm bored of me saying that, but it's when it all started. So when I was 12, I started getting my period, and they pretty much from the first one I ever had were the most agonizing, painful, heavy, like it was awful. And I at first I thought, okay, maybe this is normal, like, you don't really know your periods and stuff when you first start. It's funny though, because I started the week before I started secondary school, and I had Bible class that morning. I know, she was a religious girl. I had Bible class that morning, and I woke up and cried my eyes out because my bed was full of blood. Anyway, yeah, they were painful. Pretty much from that one, they were hurting so bad. I'd say after about 6 months, a year, it was just getting worse and worse and worse to the point where, like, if I woke up, I can vividly remember one day waking up, and I'd started my period and I came downstairs and I could barely walk and I was rolling around on the sofa, crying. Mum had to we had to go to hospital because I was in so much pain. Paracetamol, hot water bottle, whatever I was taking, and it wouldn't touch it. Like they were bad, really, really, really bad. So eventually, after a few hospital trips and stuff, I went to the GP and they put me on tranexamic acid. Something's supposed to like I think it like clots the blood so it's less heavy, or I don't really know what it was, but they told me to take it, so I did. And I was on really, really strong painkillers prescribed by the doctor, and I was like 13, like that was a lot. Anyway, it just kept getting worse and worse. So in the end, they put me on the pill. I don't know what it's called, but it's one where you take it for 3 weeks, take a break, have your period, and then taking it again. So I was on that for a while, so a couple years. So now I'd be at the age of 16. Now, when I was 16, I went for a wee one day. Do you know, it's actually mad because I like to see myself as like I'm very into the gym and I like to see myself as really healthy. But actually, when I talk about it, I really have been through it and I'm still going through it with my health. It's weird. So yeah, so I went for a wee one day, one morning when I was 16, and it really, really hurt. Like it felt like there was a hot poker rammed up my hoo-ha. So, I went to the doctors. They said, "Oh, you've got a urinary tract infection, a UTI." So I thought, okay, fine. Um, it gave me some antibiotics, took the antibiotics. Fast forward to when I finished the antibiotics, it was about 2 days later, I went for a wee. Same thing. They're like, oh, maybe, the antibiotics hasn't cleared it up. Have some more. Had some more. I took the course. A couple of days later after I finished, went for a wee, came back. And at this point, it felt like I was, do you know when you wash your hands in hot water, but your hands are really cold and that burning feeling, like literally burnt? That's what it felt like to wee. And I was weeing blood. Like it was like crying, screaming on the toilet territory. So for a while, quite a while, probably about 6 months, I was backwards and forwards to the doctor. Every time I would finish the course of antibiotics, it got to the point that I'd finish the course at night, and by the next night, symptoms were back again. I'd have my urine tested. Yes, you've got a UTI. Here we go again. So I was doing that for a long time, and it was actually quite debilitating because I was young and I was trying to enjoy myself, and I was in agony. Mix that with the agonising periods. I wasn't having a good time. So that was when I was 16. Fast forward to when I was 18. This is when it really started to go horribly wrong. Like, yeah. So I can see it now. Do you know, it's so mad. Like, I can really vividly remember all this stuff. I can see myself. I remember what I was wearing to bed. Everything. I even remember what I ate before I went to bed that night. Anyway, one night when I was 18, I'd been at work and come home, had my dinner, got into bed, and I was texting my granny to say goodnight. And I remember putting the phone down and going, like I just felt, I don't know, a bit sick, like a bit just off. I really didn't feel good. I tried to go to sleep, and then I thought, oh God, I'm going to throw up. So I went out my bedroom, and then you've got to go across to the right, the hallway, landing, to get to my bathroom. I made it about 2 steps out my bedroom door, projectile vomited everywhere, up the walls, the skirting boards, and I was still being sick, and I was going to my mum, I'm sorry, mum, I'm sorry. So anyway, got myself cleaned up, whatever, went back to bed, and I thought, I've probably got stomach bugs, something's going on. However, all night, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. I was just like sat with a bowl over the bed, just throwing up, throwing up, throwing up. By the morning, I couldn't walk. I could barely speak. I have never, ever, ever felt so unwell in my life. I thought I was dying. Like, I literally felt like I was dying. I couldn't move. And my mum would have to, sit me up so that I could throw up. Sorry, guys, I know this is gross, but I feel like we don't talk about this stuff enough and women's health and stuff. So I'm just going to say it how it is. And I shit myself. Wow. Wow, have I said that on the internet? I did. I couldn't, it was coming out both ends and I couldn't move. Like, it was horrendous. And I was becoming weaker and weaker. So in the end, my mum called an ambulance because there's no way she could have took me to hospital because I couldn't stand up. Like, it was awful. The ambulance came. They were like, yes, you need to go to hospital. They put me in a wheelchair and carried me down the stairs. Pardon me, out into the ambulance. Got to hospital. The hospital is saying to me, oh, it's probably the flu. Probably the flu. So they did the test. No, it's not the flu. Oh, it's stomach bug. You've got a stomach bug. So I tried to, they discharge me with this stomach bug, and I tried to leave. And as I was walking out of the doors to the entrance for A&E, I collapsed on the floor. When I woke up, I was in resus. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm really not. When I woke up, I was in resus. There was doctors all around me. There was beeping. I remember the lights being really bright, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And they were saying to me, no, she can't go home. It's clearly more than a stomach bug. Get her on a ward. So went up to the ward. Now, this was actually really traumatizing. I was on the gynecology ward for a week and they were useless. Every day the doctor would come around and say to me, just have something to eat, have something to drink, you can go home. No one had scanned my stomach. No one, my blood tests weren't coming back normal, but they just kept saying, eat and drink and you can go home. And I remember one nurse stood over me and gave me a bottle of water and she was like, drink it, drink. And I was still being sick every day for this whole week that I was on the ward. Every day I was just being sick, being sick. The only way I was still going is because I had an IV drip to like keep me going, you know, fluids and stuff. So she gave me this water and she was going, just drink it, just drink it. I kept saying to her, I'm going to be sick, like please don't make me drink it. Just drink it, you can go home. So in the end I thought, fine. So I drank it and what happened? I threw up all over her. I did tell you, you know. So in the end, so just going back a bit, when I started getting the UTIs and stuff, by this point I'd gone to see a private consultant. He was a Urogynae, so he dealt with like all that kind of stuff. And I'd seen him a few times about the UTIs, trying to get to the bottom of that. So in the end, when I was in hospital for this being sick and stuff, I was begging my mum. I was saying like, please, mum, I can't stay here. Like no one's doing anything. I was hungry, but I couldn't eat. It was just awful. Like I've never felt that poorly and no one was doing anything. So she emailed the consultant that I'd seen about the UTIs and she said, look, like, I don't know what to do with no one's helping. So he said, I'll come and see her. Bless his heart. He came and saw me. He took me straight in the scanning room that day, scanned me, said, you need surgery. There's something going on in there. We'll have you in tomorrow morning. So the next morning came, they took me down for my surgery, and when I came back round, he said to me, you had a ruptured ovarian cyst, so everything was just full of like fluid and whatnot. And while we were in there, we also found endometriosis. So that got cauterized, the bit that he found. So that was like when I realised, okay, everything else kind of made a lot more sense then. Like the painful periods and stuff like that. There was clearly more going on than I thought. So then they sent me home the same day, and they sent me home and they gave me it was something like either too stronger of a dose of the painkillers they put me on, or they told me to take it more times than I should have done. Anyway, I was so drugged up and I'd only been out of surgery a few hours and they'd sent me home and I was an absolute mess. So another ambulance had to get called because I was like, my mum didn't know what was going on with me. I had to go back to hospital in an ambulance. They said, I have no idea why they discharged you and gave you so much of this medicine that you shouldn't have been taking. So I ended up in for another week. When I was in, I was so weak because I hadn't eaten for so long, and being able to keep anything down. I was so weak that I really couldn't stand up. So they'd try and like get me out of bed, put me in the chair, and I couldn't even sit up in the chair. Like it was scary. I was sat in the chair next to the hospital bed with like my head slumped down. When I tried to stand up, my legs were shaking. Like it was just horrific. Anyway, you'd think that was the end. It's not. So I started to build up a bit. I was drinking those horrible Ensure milkshake things and trying to build myself back up and whatever. A week later, I was discharged. I thought, yeah, I'm good. So I was at home for a couple of weeks and I was getting these horrible, horrible pains in my stomach. Different to the being sick and like all of that other stuff, but I was getting these really nasty pains in my stomach. Again, like crying, screaming, bad pains. So I went back to the hospital. Oh no, you're fine. It's probably just where you've had your surgery. Off you go. Now at this point, I had not been to the toilet for a number 2 for a month. I did tell them that, but they just, I don't know, nothing was, oh, just keep eating, drink a lot of water, whatever. I'm telling them, like, no, my stomach really hurts and I haven't been to the toilet. Because think of those 2 weeks when I was in hospital and I was being sick. For a week, I couldn't eat anything. So there was nothing to push anything through. The week after that, I was having tiny bits here and there, but I was still really struggling to eat. So I basically didn't eat for like 2 weeks. So nothing was moving, nothing was happening. So a month, nothing. So one time, I'd been home for about 2 weeks and the pain was really bad, whatever. I went back to the hospital. I said, okay, we'll scan you again. They scanned me. The doctor came back in the room and he said, Emily, you're full of shit. I said, excuse me. He said, no, seriously, you're full, like to up here, like borderline throwing it up. You're full of shit. So I said, okay, brilliant. What now? And this massive, scary woman come in and she didn't even say hello. She just come in with this hot, soapy water thing in a bottle, told me to turn on my side and she squirted it straight up my ass. Oh, and then she's like, hold it. And I'm going, I can't hold it. Went to the toilet, right? No one told me, it's an enema. No one told me how that worked. So I wasn't aware. I went to the toilet, nothing come out apart from what she'd put in there. So I was like, it didn't work. Then the pain started because obviously things had then started to move. I had a ketamine, yeah, injection in my bum because I was screaming. I was sweating. They had to put me in a hospital gown because I kept stripping off. Like, it so wasn't funny at the time, and it isn't. Like, it was actually really traumatizing, but I was stripping off because I was sweating so much. And then they're like, give her the ketamine. And then they bend over and then put injection stuff in my bum. And I was like, ah! I was screaming, give me gas in air. Like, it was so bad, guys. No, it was really, really bad. And the pain, oh my God. I had to hit the emergency. There's like emergency call bells on the toilets in the hospital. I hit the emergency call bell because I fainted trying to do the poo. Like, guys, it was bad. And at the time, it wasn't funny at all. But now, after a few glasses of wine, I love to tell everyone that story. Anyway, after that, that was that episode over, you'll be glad to know. But through all of this, I was still taking constant antibiotics for the UTIs because every time I stopped, they'd come back. And after the endo diagnosis, they changed my pill to one where you just don't take a break. So it's just constant, you don't have a period. So since then, that was a lot. Oh my God, I nearly forgot, okay? I thought that was the end of like the operation fiasco, but it's actually not, because when I was 19, so a year later, so I was still taking the antibiotics for the UTIs, and the consultant, I was still going to see him, and he said, obviously taking these, I was low dose antibiotics every night. Taking these is not really like a solution. We're just sort of holding off the pain and stuff. So you're going to need a cystoscopy and a dilation. Now, they thought that my bladder wasn't emptying properly, so the urine was sitting in there causing an infection. So he's like, yeah, you need a cystoscopy, a dilation. And I went private for that. Are you mad to think that after the experience I had with the endo and the operation that I said, if I ever need surgery again, I'm never doing that. It was awful. So I went privately, and it was, they gave me a jacket potato after my surgery, and like they lifted the big, like this silver thing off very different. It was very different. Anyway, I went for this cystoscopy and dilation, had the surgery, was wearing a big nappy after, and they're like, yeah, that should make your bladder empty, stopping the UTIs. I'm like, great, that is great. Only 2 weeks later, I got another UTI, so that was a waste of a couple of grand, and not to mention me walking around in a nappy. It didn't work, so that wasn't the issue, clearly. So for a while after that, so now I'm about 19, when I had that, turning 20, for a couple of years, it was all right. If I missed some antibiotics, then I would get another UTI. And we did try um, to take me off them and see how it went. Didn't work. Then I tried, it's called like D-Manos and like all this cranberry stuff and natural stuff. Didn't work. The infection would still come back. Um, Obviously, I'm not having periods at this point, so that wasn't too bad. Like, that was okay. Um, and now, what's that other thing that does it begin with a H? I've literally got some upstairs. I can't remember what it's called. Hold on. It's come to me. Hiprex. That was another thing that we tried for the UTIs. Didn't work. A couple of days later, got another UTI. So as it stands now, from when I was 16 till I'm 24 this year, I'm still on low dose antibiotics every night. I take one for 3 months, and then stop. Well, don't stop, but then go straight to a different one for 3 months so my body doesn't get too used to it. Regarding the whole endo thing, like truthfully, I don't really get it. Like, and I've had so many different doctors tell me so many different things. This year, actually, I was getting really bad pains in my stomach, awful. Ended up in hospital again and had a emergency gynae appointment, and that was on the NHS. So I went to the appointment, and this consultant's telling me, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to, this is what it is, it's your endo again, we can't see a sit, blah, 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 blah. I come out the room, this is on God, right? I come out of that room after he's told me all this stuff, and I bumped into my private consultant because he does NHS and private. And he said, oh, what are you doing here? I said, I'm really struggling again, whatever. I said, but I got an appointment on the NHS. He said, what did he tell you? So I relayed what he'd told me to the other consultant, and he went, that's a load of rubbish, don't do any of that. So then I was even more confused, because I'm like, well, which one do I listen to? I've been told, like, I've had scans and they've said, oh, that's a functional cyst, and then it's turned out actually the cyst is still there and hasn't gone away. It's not a functional cyst, it's a problem. It's just, and it's had such an effect because, sometimes if I'm going to get a UTI, I can, like, when I was younger, I must have been about 20 or something, I was going out bowling with my older sister and her boyfriend and the family. Popped to the toilet before I left the house to go bowling, and I was like, oh my God, I've got a UTI. I was in agony. So while everyone else was bowling and having fun, I was sat on the toilet with my antibiotics in one hand and a bottle of water in the other, trying to flush it through. And I missed the whole thing. Like, it really has had such an effect, and the endometriosis and like the pain that's come with that, and the bloating. I get ready to go out and I think, oh God, like, I'm really bloated, and then I feel rubbish. Like, it's had such an effect on so many parts of my life. And like I say, even this year, like, I've really been going through it with my stomach again, the pains and stuff, and one minute it's this, and then it's not this, and then it's this, and then it isn't. Like, I can't seem to get a straight answer. I don't know if anybody else is in that situation, but I can't get a straight answer out of anyone. But it's so debilitating. And I know I spoke about it on my TikTok where I said, I was told by one doctor, well, you're a woman, you're bound to be in pain, and you've probably got anxiety anyway. Like, what is that? What is that? It's just, I don't know. But it really has had quite a massive effect on my life. And it's so weird because not just like, my female parts and my bladder and stuff, but it's had such an effect. Girls, if you've got like endo or anything like that, could you please let me know if it's had an effect on your bowels? Because, like, I've got an appointment next month to see a bowel specialist because they've had to test me for Crohn's and all of this other stuff because my going to the toilet is so all over the place. I either can do it very easily or cannot do it at all for a long time, which obviously causes me problems. It's just horrible. It's just every part of like what you take for granted when you don't have something like that. And you know, before all this started, I never ever ever dreamt I'd have problems like I do now with all that stuff. But another thing I wanted to touch on again, if anyone has been through the same thing, please do drop me a message, because as much as I'm trying to help you by telling you my experience and stuff, I'm still a bit lost with it all. So, you know, any advice or help is appreciated. But so my grandma on my dad's side, she has also had these recurrent UTIs. She hasn't had the endo or anything, but she's had them for about 37 years, and all of the antibiotics that she was taking has stopped working. Like, her body's become immune to it, so she can't have that anymore. She's had to go and have it's like a balloon thing to create a new lining of her bladder, because her bladder's just scar tissue now from all the UTIs. And it's made her depressed, like, because she's had it for so long, and they still can't work out why. And then my half sister, also on my dad's side, she's younger. I don't see my dad, so I don't know, but I've heard. She also has started to get them. I mean, she's like just starting secondary school kind of age. She started to get the UTIs. I've got them, and my grandma's got them. But when I've asked the consultant, he said, "Oh, I don't think it's a hereditary thing." But like, where do you go after? Because I feel, to be honest, the consultant, he is lovely. The one that I go to privately is lovely. But I even think he's a bit lost on what to do with it all now. And where do you go from a consultant? What's next? Like, where? Because I'm happy to pay. I'm happy to, you know, whatever, travel, because this is my life. Like, it's so debilitating. And I try really, really hard. I try so hard to get on with stuff and just keep going. But, you know, sometimes I'll go to bed and I'll think, oh, I don't feel quite right. Like, that feels like it's starting to hurt again. Then I can't sleep and I'm getting anxiety because, you know, I don't know if I'm going to wake up in the night and it's going to be really bad. Or I pray, you know, like when I know I've got an event or an occasion or something coming up, I think, please, like, I make sure maybe I'll double up on the antibiotics the night before and whatever, so I don't have a UTI, or because it could, so if I'm not on top of it, it could so easily ruin so much. And I just think that stuff doesn't get spoken about, like women's health doesn't get spoken about enough. It's all very hush hush, and a lot of the time I know it's not just me that's been dismissed by doctors and stuff like that. And I guess I really have had to, I mean, it shouldn't be a case of, okay, I'll have to go private because I'm getting no answers. That shouldn't be the case. But if you can do it, that's been the most helpful thing out of all of it, all the things I've done. But like I say, even that, I feel like he's a bit stumped. But one thing I won't do is take being pushed about. So if so many times I've seen doctors and they've said, oh, you know, oh, it's just probably this, or it's just, you know, you're a woman or whatever. I will go and complain, and I did complain about that doctor. And I will complain. I will say, no, I want a second opinion. You have to push for it, girls. Like, you have to say, I'm not happy with that, because they will just push you to the side if they can get away with it. They really, really will. Don't let them. Do not. I'm gonna sneeze. Do not let them. So that's my experience with women's health and you know, all that kind of stuff, and my endo. my messages are literally always, always open on TikTok, on Instagram, in the comments below here, wherever. Um, if you've got any questions about sort of what I went through, if you're going through similar, whatever, please just message me. And if you've got any advice for me, please, we need to unite. We need to unite because I feel that there's so many other women that go through stuff and get dismissed and then feel like, oh, well, there's nothing more. But I really, truly think there is. And it's not normal for us to feel like this. And I don't know, maybe we should start a petition. Sabi Baby's petition for uteruses, wombs, Sabi Baby's womb. I don't know. But, seriously, even if you just want to rant about something about what you're going through, your health and whatever, like I really do understand how frustrating and how debilitating it is, and I'm sick of people not saying it for what it is and talking about it. So I hope that's answered some of your guys' questions. And yes, like I said, my message is always open. So me and my snotty nose are gonna go now. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Thank you guys for listening. I love you all so much, and I will see you next week. Love you. Bye.